Hi, I'm Karen McConnell. I'm the costume designer for Alice in Wonderland Jr. at Dorado Musical Theatre. And these are just some of the costumes that we have for our cast of 125. And each cast member changes at least 4 times, so you can tell there's a lot of costumes. We liked to hide little special, we call them lobby candy. And these are things that you're only going to see in the lobby, but even on her apron are little embroidered teacups. This is the Red Queen's costume, and for her costume we wanted to give a nod to Tim Burton. There are roses along her collar, and then if you look closely, there's hearts all over her collar. The petticoat that she's wearing underneath is actually the petticoat of one of our seamstresses when she was married, Miss Maureen. The Queen's skirt, of course, matches the King's costume, and we put in the little detail of the playing cards in the waistband. The white rabbit was sewn by one of our seamstresses, Maureen Finman. If you take a look at his crushed velvet coat with a fun polka dot, he even had to create a fat suit for our very tiny gals who play the White Rabbit. We had to learn how to sew an Elizabethan collar. Now we're in the boys changing area, which is the Black Box Theater here at Harris Center, and we're going to be looking at the Mad Hatter. And he was very, very fun. We embroidered the buttons, so those are all hand done just for color and accent. And we lined his jacket with some vintage fabric from the 60s. And he has little details, like even his socks have the measuring tape. And then of course his spectacular hat. And this was done by our milliner, Margie Rudolph. And it even has its own carrying case. And this was all hand done. And there's a coral color fabric underneath that matches the cuff and the cuffs in the knickers. And we have the flowers of the golden afternoon. Each flower is styled after a different decade, starting in the 40s with Lily. And Lily has a long slender gown and long gloves and a spectacular collar. And then we go to the 50s with Rose, and she's kind of styled after Chanel. And we try to do details again that you really don't get to see until you see the costume close up. All the leaves have been quilted. We've been calling this show Pelageddon because we used so much Pellin that both of the fabric stores in town ran out of it. All of our petals are filled with this material. It's a very heavy material, and we can sculpt with it. If we go back to the 60s, we have Violet, and each one of her petals, each one of her leaves was also quilted. And this is our first hidden Mickey. This is on Violet's headpiece, and there's just a little tiny Mickey shape. There's also a teacup in one of her leaves that we did with a little heart. And also in the back here is her name styled in one of the leaves. I'm going to jump to the 70s and our flower child here, and this is Daisy, and she's built on a saucer tutu. Every single one of her petals is a full half yard of Pellin. So we're going to jump to the 80s now, and this is Petunia, our disco queen, and each one of her flowers was hand painted. Because we have 2 different sized petunias, we made 2 different sized dresses, and then they just switch flowers back and forth between casts. So this is our Red Queen wig, and her little gold crown is actually a crown that I picked up in Sweden a couple of years ago from the Royal Gift Shop. This is the March Hare's wig, and his ears are very large and heavy and crazy. We actually had to sew them into the wig so that he has more ability to jump around the stage. And these are the March Hare's pants, and this is fabric that we went down to Southern California to get, so it's special theatrical grade fur